Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are getting ready to go to work on my commuting bike, the Zizzo Forte. And as you guys know, I've had some problems with the drivetrain that I put on this bicycle. So we did some modifications to the drivetrain last night, and we are going to test this out. Beans, be quiet. Beans, be quiet. So we're going to test ride this on the way to work, and we're going to see if my shifting problems are gone, and if they are, we're going to make some changes to the drivetrain on this bike.
It looks perfectly in line to me. The shifting has not been fixed at all. I think the chain is skipping a lot too. We may have to take some links out of this chain, which would kind of make sense seeing that I put a much smaller gear on the front. The shifting is just as aggravating as it was. Freaking bus is getting awful close. I tell you, you gotta watch out for these people. It's so freaking aggravating. Ugh. It's acting worse than it did. It takes a while to get these drivetrains lined out. It just keeps doing that. I've stopped and barrel adjusted it quite a few times already. And every time, it's getting really, really annoying. That time it shifted without me even touching it. It shifted. This is what I'm talking about, guys. It just gets annoying as hell because it sometimes does it continuously, just click, 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 click. And you know, it seems like if you adjust it, adjust it, adjust it, it doesn't help. Man, I gotta do something with that shifting problem. It ain't good. All right, guys, a less than successful test. I still have a lot of experimenting to do. Every time I switch the gears, it takes a lot of adjustment, a lot of tweaking to get everything back right again. And we have a couple issues going on. One thing I have learned, and that I will say, is that I'm probably gonna go back to the original Zizzo gear on the front of this. I wanted something with more top speed on it, but let's be honest, this is a commuting to work bike. It's a work bike, it's a utility bike. I'm not racing in the Tour de France or anything like that. So I'm gonna get over it, okay? I love going fast, but at the same time, is it worth it? And I would say no. I'd much rather give up the speed to have no drivetrain issues. So when I get off of work, we're gonna talk a little bit more about what's going on with this bike and what we need to do to get it, you know, back right again. So I will talk to you guys here in a little bit.
Many hours later.
Hey guys, just got off of work. I was really hoping that the Zizzo Forte was going to work properly, but unfortunately, no such luck. This thing is still shifting like crap. It's even worse than it was with the 62 chainring on it. Partially, the chain might be too long, so I might have to do some modifications to the chain link. I mean, you heard that chain skipping sound, and if you don't know what chain skipping is, let me show you. Okay, right now what you're seeing is the chain actually skipping over the tooth of the rear cassette. You see how the chain comes up? That is chain skipping, or that is when the chain skips on the cassette. And that's what it sounds like it's doing. There is some shifting problems where the gears will just shift down or shift up automatically. That could be from the derailleur, but this is a decent derailleur that's on this bike. Needless to say, it's not fixed. But regardless, I did an experiment where I put the Zizzo Liberté front gear on this bicycle. Now I had to change out the bottom bracket because the bottom bracket that I was using with the 62 chainring is much narrower. This bottom bracket is actually wider than the one I had when I had the 62 chainring on it, but it's not as wide as the original Zizzo bottom bracket. I think I'm going to go back to the original gear on this bicycle, and I'm just going to get everything straightened out to where it just shifts normally. I am not going to do the 62 chainring anymore. If I put the original front chainring and the crank arms back on this bicycle, I have to go with a wider bottom bracket, because if I don't, the actual gear will hit the chain stays, and that's not a good thing. It'll just rub. So I have to put a wider bottom bracket back on this bicycle. But I'm going to do that because, like I said, it's just a utility bike. I'm getting sick and tired of dropping my chain. I'm tired of it. See, the problems I faced when I converted this over to a 62 chainring is all about the offset of the gear itself. 62 is a big gear, okay? And when you're putting it on here, it's got to line up perfectly with one of the gears, preferably one of the middle gears on the cassette. If it is not perfect, you're going to have shifting issues. Now, adjustment can help that. And in all honesty, with the 62 chainring on the front, I could adjust it and get it pretty damn close. I could get it where it works most of the time, and it works pretty well most of the time. It's not perfect by no means, but it does work. But one thing you cannot stop with that 62 chainring is chain drop. You cannot stop that. It will happen. It just will. With a chain that big and no guards to keep the chain on, and I tried various guards. You cannot get these beauty plates. You cannot get them for that big of a gear. I have not seen them. I cannot find one. And usually these beauty plates have a high wall on them to keep the chain from coming off. I can't seem to find one for a 62 chainring. I can't. So I've tried one of those little chain guides that I put on here to keep the chain on there. It still derails. It just gets jammed up in that chain guide. And the last time it did that, it bent that chain guide. So it's pretty much useless. It does not work. So it's getting really irritating dropping the chain, because that's the most dangerous thing. The shifting thing, obviously some adjustments and some tweaking with the bottom bracket, you could definitely get the chain line right and you can get the shifting perfect. It can happen. Not with that 62 chainring on the front of it. It'll get close to perfect. I can get it close, but it's still not there. With a gear like this, I can definitely get the shifting perfect on this bike. But the chain drop on a 62, I can't do nothing about that. It's going to happen. There's nothing I can do about that. I love having a 62 chainring on the front of this bicycle. I love the speed that you can get out of it. But the chain drop is just something I can't deal with anymore. One time it's gonna come off at the wrong moment, like when I'm power pushing the pedal or something like that. And if the chain does come off in a situation like that, I could fly into the street because I'm pushing hard and then all of a sudden the chain gives way. That will throw me off balance big time, and then I'll fall into the street, and that's not a good thing. I've already hurt my knees enough on these folding bikes. I cannot do that anymore. So I'll give up the speed to keep the chain from dropping. And by going to a smaller gear with guards on the side of it, it'll keep the chain from dropping and I'll be happy. This is a utility bike, like I said. I'll give up the speed just to make sure that the chain doesn't drop. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Now, we're not gonna keep the Zizzo Liberté gear on here. It's just an experiment. I wanted to see if it did help the shifting at all, but I wanted to see if it helped the chain drop problem the most. And it has helped the chain drop problem. I still gotta work out the shifting. Anyway, it is starting to rain on me, so I need to get home before it starts pouring. And this thing is gonna shift like crap. Ugh.
2 hours later.
Okay guys, we have finally got this drivetrain fixed. When I got home today, I said, I'm on a mission without permission. I said, I am going to fix this drivetrain if it kills me. So I went through my parts supply and I got another bottom bracket out. I've got various bottom brackets of various different lengths. I got out a 52 tooth chain ring. So that's a front cog of 52 tooth. I've got the 12 to 35 rear cassette. I did some calculations and found the right chain length, and I got the chain line perfect with that bottom bracket. So it's spaced out perfectly and the thing shifts like a dream. Even when I'm starting out in like a high gear and pushing really hard on the pedals, there is no chain skip whatsoever. So I am really happy right at the moment. Also, this has a chain guard on it. So we should eliminate chain drop, and we eliminated the shifting problem. And I think I've got everything worked out fine because it's working perfectly. That chain drop problem, that was getting really annoying. On my way home from work today, this thing was shifting like crap. I mean, it was just all over the place. It almost made me do what Daniel LaRusso did in Karate Kid.
This damn bike, I hate this bike. I hate this freaking bike. This stupid bike. I hate it. Daniel!
Yeah, I almost threw this bike away. I was so pissed off at this bike because it was shifting so crappily. But now, it's quiet as a mouse. It shifts on point. I did some work, man. I spent a couple hours. I got that chain line perfectly. You know, I didn't want to go through all that trouble, but I had to, man. I got to get this bike lined out properly. So obviously getting the right bottom bracket, getting that gear spaced out where it's supposed to be, getting that chain line right, and getting the correct length chain, it worked wonders for this bicycle. I also put another set of cranks on it. I put a black set of cranks on it. I had a couple sets of cranks in stock, or in my supplies anyway. So I put some black cranks on it, which kind of matched the bicycle. Those chrome ones didn't match at all. So ultimately, guys, we got everything lined out perfectly. The real test is going to be putting a load on this bicycle, all my weight, and then riding it to work tomorrow.
The next day.
All right, guys, the real acid test. See if this bike actually performs pretty decently on the way to work this morning. Hopefully it does. So far, I have not had one skip shift, and normally it would have done it a couple of times, maybe even 3 or 4 in just this little short span. So far I'm liking it a lot. All right, guys, this thing is actually working really well. A joy. First time in forever, a joy to ride. I'm actually enjoying my commute into work, not going, oh my God. It's horrible when you're constantly looking at your drivetrain, trying to figure out what's going on. I was almost hit by a truck yesterday because I was too busy paying attention to my damn drivetrain and not fully paying attention to the road. Even though I was in the right, this truck still just pulled right in front of me, or turned right in front of me rather. You gotta be alert to that stuff, because if you're not, you're gonna get hit. You can't rely on vehicles to pay attention to what they're doing. They won't do it. So it's just nice not to have to worry about my drivetrain and concentrate on the road, you know? That's really cool. All right, let's take a look at the final product, shall we? I put this 52-tooth chain ring. It has a really thick guard on the side of it that will keep the chain from dropping, which is really cool. I had to take 6 links out of the chain because obviously I downsized the front gears, so I had to take 6 links out of the chain. So I think I got 106 links in this chain. So we have a Shimano Acera rear derailleur. We also have a Shimano 11 to 35 cassette on the rear. I put a little bit wider bottom bracket on it. This is a Sunlight bottom bracket. It's not a Shimano like I had in it before, but I needed to space this crank out a little bit to get the chain line right. And I got the chain line perfect. I had quite a few of these bottom brackets in my supply. So I had to use the correct width one to get this gear spaced out properly so I could get the chain line right. I have a bunch of gears in my supply. I have several derailleurs. I have a bunch of supplies just so I can get these bikes lined out properly. I didn't spend the time on this that I should have spent on it. I just wanted to put a big gear on the front of it and go faster. Obviously, I gave up some of the top speed, but you know, 52 tooth is fine for commuting. Getting the proper length chain is very important to keep the chain from skipping on the rear cassette. The way you get the proper chain length is you measure the center of the bottom bracket or the center of the crank arm right here to the center of the rear axle. You measure that length, and then you count the number of teeth on your front chain ring, and you count the biggest gear, the number of teeth on your biggest gear on your rear cassette, and then there's an equation. Actually, you don't even need to worry about all that. There's online calculators to get the proper chain length. If you get on this calculator and plug in those 3 numbers, the number of teeth on the front chain ring, the number of teeth on the biggest gear on the cassette, and the length between the rear axle and the front bottom bracket or the front crank arm or the center of the front crank arm. If you measure that out, get the teeth on the front, teeth on the back, and put it into this online calculator, it'll tell you how many links that you need to put in your chain. Very handy and useful information. But getting this spaced out properly and getting that chain line right is crucial. And that comes from how wide your bottom bracket is. But like, I can crank on this and I don't feel chain skipping, and I don't hear the grinding or anything like I did before. So it's perfect, and I am happy. I am really happy. It's been a long time coming, guys. It's been a long time coming getting this bike all straightened out, you know. Anyways, I'm gonna get in here to work. I gotta get my day started. If you guys have any comments, questions, leave it down in the comment and questions section. Slap a like on the video if you like it, guys, and I will talk with you on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.